Okay, this is dragon number 8, the Mercury Salamander dragon. Now, with this guy, I wanted to try and start off not just this guy, but a few of these drawings throughout the Dragonary process this year. I wanted to try and really go for some more diverse anatomy. And, you can see that right away in this guy with the larger kind of snout, the big nose on him. And at first, it felt bird-like because I have a tendency to put kind of a sharp beak to a lot of the dragons in general. But it also was reminiscent of kind of like a whale to me, with this big, like these big blue whales with the big, or the sperm whales with the big head, the Moby Dick like kind of looking things. So I decided to go with that and just see where that would take me on this guy. Now, I did play around with the placement of the eyes a little bit. For a little while, I liked the eyes higher and more forward in the head, but I did settle on the lower and what I kind of call more of the whale-like anatomy, at least to this skull. And then that got me thinking, well, to really get outside the box on this thing, even though he has that kind of a shape to the anatomy, it doesn't necessarily have to be a large dragon or a large animal. So that's where the salamander comes into play a little bit. I see this crazy little guy as something that could be held in your hand or is maybe the size of like a pet lizard, maybe the size of your forearm or something. I've seen these little dragon lizards that people keep as pets. So something in around that size is really, what I'm starting to imagine this guy as. Now, Mercury, obviously that can refer to a lot of things, and I don't want to say too much more about that right now because I don't want to influence where other people may take this using that as a guide. So, but back to this, you can kind of see that, once I did commit to the larger nose on him, he also has characteristics that remind me of like a triceratops in the plate that is around, the back of the head, the neck area. So I thought that was cool too. And even in the more gestural part of the lay-in, you can see where there could be sort of a repetition in the plating going down the neck and how that might develop. So I was starting to see some options and just some things developing here. And I probably said this before, but I stayed away for the most part from dealing with pupils and things like that because I just felt like I could do that later. There's a lot of options within just how any eye can be drawn. So I definitely wanted to just kind of steer clear of that, and I would deal with that down the road if I, choose to develop this one further or with whatever ones I do develop further. Okay, now, as I start to get back in, you can see here a little bit of what I was talking about where the next set of horns starts to repeat. And that just comes from the rhythm of the gestural drawing that was there, just some of those loose lines that were in there. Also, just adding a little more form. Now, at this point, I'm probably into something like an HB pencil. So it's still not really super dark. And even the last, I usually go to like a 2B. But even that is not a super dark pencil. So my sketches tend to be fairly light. It's just, I guess, there's sort of for me, if I use leads that are too soft, it'll just get too smudged and the drawing gets too dirty. So that's just my own personal preference. Now, again, around the neck, sometimes, one of my thoughts is just to try and give it some form, which is, how three-dimensional is this sort of boned crest that he has around his neck. So you can see that I just put in a little shadow, it gives it a little form. And there we go. The Mercury Salamander dragon.